to the testifiers, to staff, to those in the audience. A lot of weeds did get pitched out here today, but I'm one to make sure the public has clarity before I dive into the bill. I see a lot of pushing back going towards the direction of the executive director, but I'm a common sense person. Executive director, can you make decisions as it relates to the interpretation of the law, or do you follow the interpretation as to what is given the directive on behalf of the board?
Good afternoon, Senator Vernice Gums, Executive Director of the Taxi Cab Commission. No, I cannot. I have to follow the directives given to me by the board.
And that is what nobody's talking about. Her job is to execute as the executive director what the board says. That's it. And the problem we're having here is the majority of the members on that board, their terms have already expired. And the only person that could send down new people to put on that board is the governor of the Virgin Islands. That's just the facts. We go all around the bush without just getting directly to what the issue is. Her job is to execute what the board says. When we made an attempt in this body to give the executive director more power and autonomy to deal with the day-to-day operations, it was voted down on this floor. So know where your problem lies in order to get resolution, okay? I also wanted to ask in regards to the safety issue and concerns, former Senator Patrick Simeon-Sproul, as it relates to the numbers of individuals that currently have safaris that are registered, more than 20, did you walk with those stats so we could get an idea of how many people are being affected by these laws and what potential changes might come?
Good afternoon, Patrick Simeon-Sproul, Assistant Director of Motor Vehicles. No, I don't have those stats with me right now.
Is that something you can get by contacting DMV and sharing with us before this hearing is out?
I will check, yes.
I would appreciate it. I also wanted to talk about the safety aspect because a lot of people keep referencing that. One individual, I think we heard that they referenced that some of the accidents and issues with safaris were not done directly by the safaris or those drivers. It was individuals impacting the safaris themselves. If the difference between a 20 passenger and additional 7 passengers, 27, does anybody have any technical knowledge from me? Because I'm trying to understand from a safety issue, would you have to build a bigger chassis? What is the major difference between 20 and 27 that the safety issue keeps coming up? Can anybody share that with me from knowledge-wise? So we just saying is a safety issue, but nobody can say why? Okay.
Maybe I can project. I don't know. You can hear me?
Yes, my dear, I'm listening.
Yes, Hanson Watley again, Vice Chair, Taxi Commission Board. Becoming a member of the board, it was understood in discussions that there was a concern once you had adjusted the chassis of the vehicle at the extent where it would be 27 seats, you had to go in and do a special inspection. Sorry?
Okay, when you say was understood, did you get documentation of this, or people were just in their feelings, or people just sharing thoughts? Well, where's the documentation?
Shared with us through DMV that spoke to specific inspections for vehicles that were 27 seaters to make sure that they were able to be regulated because we grandfathered in those vehicles.
So, okay,
now,
I'm running out of time. So this goes back to BNV. Do you have documentation or information that you could share where this original information came from as to this safety issue? Because as a senator, I like to make informed decisions. And I'm not one that does he say, she say too well. I don't do it at all. So is there any documentation from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to share what this concern was about?
Time.
Thank you, Senator Patrick Simeon Sproul, Assistant Director of Motor Vehicles. I will have to get back to you on an actual number. I don't have that with me as far as the safety issues, what you're looking at. So I'll get back to you. I will make sure we forward it to your office.
Madam Chair, I know my time has been called, so I'm going to make 2 requests to the chair to Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
You may proceed with those requests,
Thank you.
Senator.
The 2 requests is to get information on the amount of passenger safaris that are affected, more than 20, as well as giving me information as to where this safety concern came from in writing some kind of documentation so I could better understand. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Colleagues, to the people of the territory, good afternoon to the testifiers and staff. I got an opportunity to read through this piece of legislation, and there were a couple of things that stuck out for me. Licensing and consumer affairs. Currently, if an attorney is licensed in the Virgin Islands, does he automatically get a broker's license?
He's automatic. Yes,
He or she?
He is eligible for broker's license. Yes.
And I heard that previously, and I also saw it in here. Is that something that is important? Because the reason why I ask, because there's thousands of attorneys in this territory. And the reason why I ask that is sometimes lawyers are trained in a specific field. For example, some attorneys are focused on family law, some are focused on criminal law, and here we are just giving them a broker's license for the sake of just giving them one. And I'm trying to understand what is the motive, or why would we even do that? Because, I mean, am I seeing it wrong? Because if a broker is focused on dealing with real estate, that's their specialty. But you might just have an attorney who said, oh, this is another way for me to make money just because you're giving me the opportunity to get this license. How does that benefit the market if they might not be specifically focused in that area outside of the fact that they have a law degree? If anyone could share their thoughts on that.
If I may, Senator.
Go ahead,
To be
sir.
Alfred, State Commission. For one, it's about training, requisite training. Going to law school, property law is one of the requirements in almost every law school. And if you take the multi-state bar exam, there is an extensive property law section. So a lawyer would
Does
be
the Virgin
adequately
Islands
trained.
law have an extensive property section?
No, I was referring
No.
to the multi-state section
no.
of the bar exam.
No, I'm asking you, does the Virgin Islands bar has a multi-property, what you're saying, does our VI law have that to take
Well,
in the
I've
test?
never taken the bar. There are, perhaps Senator James can answer this question specifically. but-
Anybody could assist me? Through the chair of the legal counsel. They
Yes.
put you on the spot today. Because I'm really trying to figure this out. Like, this is kind of important to me.
Through the chair to Senator Heiliger Francis, once you take the bar exam, there are 3 portions. There's a multi-state portion that everyone has to take, and that's where Attorney Alfred was referring to in terms of the multi-state portion that comprises property law and various different sections of the law. And then there is the essay portion, which is usually specific to the state that person is testing in. And then you also have the ethics portion. So the exam takes about 3 days, and so it is expected that once someone has completed their law degree, that they should have some knowledge and be versed in property and real estate law.
Of the Virgin Islands.
Of any place.
Any place. Okay.
Of any place, because
that's important to me, because
Yeah.
I wanted to understand a little bit about that. I also saw here there was a section in regards to who could be property managers. I think it was on page 9. And they spoke about giving a listing of the requirements for this license does not apply to a whole series of individuals, daughters, stepkids, mother-in-laws. Is there a reason why we're limiting it to, like, I'll use myself for an example. I don't have any children, but my niece, my brother's child, is who I raised. According to this, she wouldn't have any rights to do anything if I assigned her as a manager, and she's closer to me than a stepchild. So is there a way that, do you think we could amend this to say maybe first generation relatives? Because you're gonna have a series of people that are nieces and nephews and aunts that are sometimes closer than some of these stepkids you have in here. So is that something we could potentially look at?
May I? Sure.
State your name.
Horace
I'm
Graham.
gonna fill my house. Me getting on a power Tony. No.
Yes.
Yes.
Horace Graham, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. Senator, I would take a closer look at that section because I myself I'm looking at it again, and I would take a closer look because I think it's clearly stating that the property manager licensing provisions of this chapter do not apply, meaning that someone with the designation of these areas will not be required to have a property management license.
So it doesn't.
So they don't need to have it in order to manage a property.
Yeah, my niece wouldn't. She would have to be required. She's not on this list. That's my concern. Is there a way to change it to say first generation relatives, like your first set of relatives? You understand what I'm saying? Because it seems like these stepchildren has more authority to do things than a niece. I'm not processing this one too much.
I hear you. I'm now seeing what you're referring to. Mr. Alfred.
Yes, good afternoon. Tippy Alfred, Real Estate Commission. I think the logic here is just to not make the list too long because we're talking about exemptions. And if you open up to all nieces and nephews, that's one wider ring. That might sort of dilute the regulatory authority to regulate the industry.
Well, here in the Virgin Islands, we have a lot of people that have a lot of children and have stepchildren, so it could be a wide range. I am more concerned about that immediate family connection more than anything.
Sure. I would be open to it. I think it's possible
tweaking
to
it.
amend it.
I could deal with that. Could I ask another question? I'm concerned.
You may proceed.
Thank you.
Proceed, Senator.
I'm concerned about scams. And the reason why is I was involved in one in the last 4 months. I put in a bid on a property, and by the time I spent around, they told me the owner called the broker and said they never put this property up for sale. And the whole deal went poof. And I was so scared because, not for me, because they caught it in time. I thought, how many people in the Virgin Islands this is being done to? Because apparently the individual whose name, this was a person that lived in the States that had the same name of the person who lived here in the Virgin Islands. And they submitted everything and said it was their property. And I was traumatized when I realized when they said, oh, you can't go through with this here because the owner, and the reason why the owner found out is luckily for them, the plots were divided among family. So when one of the family members saw their family member's lot for sale, they called them and said, wait a minute, I didn't know you guys are for sale. You could have sold it to one of us. And that's when the whole thing imploded. How do you think that needs to be tackled? Because that is a very dangerous situation, especially for our Virgin Islanders who might have their property sold right from up under them. What type of rules and mechanisms we could, as senators, could probably put in the law, as well as realtors, in better trying to detect these type of things?
You're recognized, Ms.
BJ Harris.
this is a very serious problem. This particular kind of case has started up in the last year or two, where people contact the realtor, say, I am so-and-so, I own this property, and I'd like to list it with you. It happened to me. Unfortunately, they said their name was Potter Milton. So I said, well, that's not right. So I did a little bit of my own investigating and realized that it was not Potter Milton. Milton Potter owned the land, but he wasn't selling it. It is a very, very serious thing. The other serious thing is diversion of funds. Somebody will be inside your email, and they'll be watching emails going between you and your attorney. And when you're about to send the wiring instructions for the funds for the sale of your $500,000 house that's going to pay for your retirement for your whole family, they'll change it. The money will go to somebody else. This happened here in the territory. It's scary as heck. I can tell you that at least the Realtor Association is working very, very hard to get the word out with risk management. And these guys are smart, and you just have to have your head in gear before you take anybody's listing. We had gone back and said, please provide a copy of your federal identity card. And they couldn't do that. Then we never heard from them. But colleagues on St. Croix, because we're talking about this in the Realtor Association, colleagues on St. Croix did the same thing. And these people produced a falsified federal identity card. So this is serious stuff. I don't think it's within the purview of this bill, but it's something that we all need to be made aware of, and we need to tell our families and our friends just to be aware.
Well, why I brought it up is because we have the opportunity to amend these documents, and I hope that we try to include strong language, especially as a deterrent for people that do these type of things, because if I didn't experience it in the last 60 days, I would not have known that this is the kind of madness that was happening here in the territory. So thank you for sharing that, and hopefully the proponent of the bill heard what we're talking about and see if we could tweak it a little bit to maybe include some language to deal with certain things like this.
And Senator B.J. Harris, again, speaking from the Real Estate Commission, when we're developing course material, a lot of that course material now will, as a result, have to be focused on recognizing this kind of trickery.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Madam Chair, I appreciate the additional time.
And you're welcome, Senator Francis.
And one of the major things that I also experienced when I said I did several transactions and they fell through, one of them had to do with the bounding posts. My God, I did not realize how huge of a problem that was, because my deal imploded again because there was no markers as to, is there rules, regulations, or maybe we need to put it into law that a property can't be listed until that is also provided? Something, because I don't know if that's the route. I'm asking you guys because you guys are the experts. What could be done for this? Because this bounding post thing, I'm very upset because I lost out on a property because of it. How do we fix that?
Ava Gail Bourdon, and I think Senator James probably can chime in on this as well, since she does real estate closings. The title company, it involves a title company, and if you're financing, the title company will not offer title, so therefore the bank will not give you the mortgage. But as legislatures, lawmakers, you can be a part of it when it comes to zoning, because some of the it's called setback violations, and the violations of the within the setback of the zoning laws. It's things like that you can probably assist with, and possibly Senator James can talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Please recognize the mic of Senator James, Maurice James. Senator James.
the senator is raising excellent questions about all the issues that the senator has gone through with real estate. We need to find solutions legislatively, and that's all I can really say about it. But everything that she raised in her last two questions to the Real Estate Commission really involved